Thanks for tuning in to That's What I Call Marketing, the Cannes Sessions. Brought to you by Friedman International, the international campaign experts taking the pain out of your multi-market campaigns. I'm your host, Conor Byrne, and having worked with Friedman International in my previous role as a global marketing leader, I've experienced firsthand their deep level of expertise and attention to detail as the go-to experts for all international campaign needs. Now, let's get right into today's episode of That's What I Call Marketing, the Cannes Sessions. Welcome to That's What I Call Marketing, the Cannes Sessions, brought to you by Friedman International. Of course, this is the podcast where you'll hear from the leading lights in the marketing world and listen to their unique insights. Don't forget, please do rate or review this episode wherever you are listening or watching. Honestly, it truly helps us reach and build on this amazing community of engaged marketers just like you. Our sponsorship kit is available. Go to our website, that'swhaticallmarketing.com/sponsor. Well, today is a bumper episode with two amazing guests. First is the brilliant Karen Nelson-Field. I had such a laugh recording this with Karen, as you will see throughout. Karen's one of the smartest people you're going to meet. We cover a lot in this episode: media measurement, human data, the rapid transition to machine-based data, the day measurement died, the importance of human-first data and aligning AI models with human behavior, the nuances of brand attention, emotional impact in advertising, and the convergence of significant industry changes. We also talk about Karen's upcoming war course, Mastering Media Effectiveness, and of course, Karen's hotly anticipated new book, The Attention Economy, a Category Blueprint, which is on pre-order now. And I have the links in the show notes. But if you aren't checking out the show notes, go to amplifiedintelligence.com.au/category-blueprint. So let's get into this episode with Karen Nelson-Field. Cheers. Karen, great to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, brilliant.
Beautiful view.
Beautiful view, south of France.
Great
Can't
weather.
be bad. Yeah. Listen, lots to talk to you about. I went to the lifelong learning session last night, which was a lot of fun. Yourself, James, and Marcus Collins dialing in from Rome. And I like the way you made James do all the cursing.
Well, I'm a lady.
Yeah.
On stage, at least.
Yeah. You talked about a few things last night that I wanted to ask you about. You said one thing about the transition to machines too soon.
Yeah, so they talked last night about, what is one mistake, one opportunity, and one change. And the mistake, I think, most people don't realise is that, there was a point in time where measurement broke. So we're all talking about, that not all reach is equal now, and we're all talking about reach doesn't work so much, but nobody really understands the point in time when it changed, and obviously that's my background as an academic, right? So the point in time changed when we stopped measuring humans and we needed a scalable solution. So fair enough, because panels, it's expensive, and even Nielsen, huge. They're not, it's not the billions of people that we need. So the point in time changed where they decided, instead of measuring humans, we'll measure machine-based data. So when I talk about, we transitioned too quickly from human to machine, it was the day that we said, fewer panels, let's use time in view. And then it scaled up from there. So I literally call that the day measurement died in my new book. And the flow-on effects from that, people really don't understand the significance of the flow-on effects from that day when we transitioned too quickly.
Can we, maybe we'll get into it, but can we go back, or is it kind of a moment where, like in your book, and we might get to this, but like that we kind of have to go, well, we need to just recognise it and try to figure out?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the reason why I say that is because the assumption was that time in view is a great proxy for human behaviour.
Yeah.
So the theory is, if you're on screen for 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds, you must be looking at the ad. And that's not the reality. It's so far from the reality, It's not funny. So when you talk about can we go back, I think that's where it's going. So I call it human first. And, I often say probably the best thing that happened to me, probably the best thing that happened to Sam Altman as well, is OpenAI's ChatGPT.
Okay.
Because what it did, I mean, we've always been a machine learning business, but what it did is it trained the world around how good AI is built. And the fact that we had access to ChatGPT, there's a whole training process that went into that before it could predict what you wanted to say in a sentence, right? So if you actually read up on OpenAI, in particular the training routes that they've been, it's years. So I think their first version was 2018, and that only had something like 11,000 books or 15,000 books or something like that they scanned and input and used as training data. And then over the course of, to current, it's many, many, many millions and millions and millions of books. So I think I can't even remember, I think it's in excess of 100 million books or something equivalent. So basically what they taught the world is that when you have human data, because human data, all those books were written by humans, and it trains the AI becomes more human-like. So thinking about going back to the future, the reality is panels for attention will never get to the scale that we need.
Right.
So my agenda is both. So we go back to the future and that we make sure that we collect good human ground truth data, and then that is informing AI models around the synthetic data that we do need, or the machine data that we need to scale an attention economy.
Right. It's really interesting because it's not like technology not being the answer. You're not kind of going, oh, we need to go back to manually doing.
No. They would look at me and say, oh, hello, Nana.
But it's just making sure that there's
It's just
basic
machine learning.
human. Yeah.
So what I find in our industry quite frustrating is that we are so quick to jump to metrics that don't work because it's a possible solution, but really it's not very credible or validated. But like I said, we're a proper machine learning business.
Yeah.
Most of our tech team are either PhDs in that or they have trained in proper computer vision and machine learning methods. So we've always been like that.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think, the reality is the quality of the models is only as good as its training data.
Yeah.
And the more complex the prediction task, the more training data you need. So I think probably the most complex is human behaviour.
Yeah,
right?
because
So that is a very complex task to predict, and that's why ChatGPT have used and still continue to use human input. So when you reply, because we all do it and say thank you.
I was going to ask, do you say please and thank you? So do
I always say please and I always say thank
So do
you.
I.
And I'm going, you're so amazing, so thank you. So there's a story, ask Les Binet about it. He has this whole kind of conversation. He calls it chatters. He calls him chatters, and they have this conversation. It's really funny. Probably shouldn't say that, but he wouldn't probably mind. But yeah, we do. So that's the input that we send back to them, apart from the data that goes into from the literature or the written word. Everything you say trains their model.
Yeah.
And this is the point about continuous quality training data to fuel our future ecosystem.
And I want that. I actually want it to be better and to do the things that it's going to be good at doing, because it does free up time for me to do other things.
Well, it just means it doesn't make errors. So what I see in a lot of the models and metrics in my space is that they work sometimes but not all the time. So what's the point of that?
Yeah.
It's not measurement. We need measurement that is accurate, stable, consistent.
Yeah, and polite.
That is true. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because last can, there was a whole, because obviously OpenAI was fairly new-ish then, and there was a big thing about where is the human? So a lot of the creatives in the area were going, oh my God, it can't take over our creative agenda, like it can't possibly be as creative as a human. So I wrote a paper on it and called it Where's the Human? Because it's interesting how the creative world is up in arms about lack of human input, but the measurement world isn't.
Right, okay,
and I go, we're trying to predict human behaviour. So I wrote a paper about it and said that makes no sense to me, that one side can be very much anti and the other just goes, oh, that's right, we'll just do synthetic data. Whatever,
yeah, that'll work. You're launching a bit of a course. Tell me a bit about the course that you're. Is it October that's coming out?
It's September.
Good.
So look, I've been a long-term collaborator with the WARC team, writing papers pretty much even prior to my business as an academic, and they asked me to sort of crystallise it into a course, and bring in attention, obviously, given where it is at the moment, but also talk more broadly about measurement. So it's called Mastering Media Effectiveness, and it sort of brings together, a lot what you've heard me talk about, which is, why are we in this position? But moreover, it's a practical course. So it's less about theory and more about practice. So it sort of talks to, what can you do now that your boss will love?
Okay.
That, you don't have to sign up to subscriptions and things like that all over the world, So so it's kind of, what can you do now that's quick and easy, but also things about what can you build into your strategy, because measurement is changing.
Yeah.
And you do need to understand how attention works, because it is being there are standards being built in the MRC as we speak. So it talks to what does your future workflow look like? What should you build into an RFI or a request for proposal, etc. And it also then gives you access to play with some data. So we're actually going to pull together some fun, interactive opportunities for people to understand. Because I get that as a data person, I get what it looks like.
Yes.
But a lot of people struggle to go, well, what does attention data even look like, and how can I append that into our workflow? So we're going to give people an opportunity to play with some data so they can sort of see. And sort of both synthetic and human and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Mess around with it, get in.
It's going to be fun.
And probably not just for media people either. I mean, this is probably for anyone.
Not.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think we've kind of worked out that this is much broader than first thought. So it's anyone that has any touch points with brands that wants to understand how to improve their effectiveness, really, from a media measurement attention perspective.
Brilliant. Oh, great. Okay, so September, we'll keep an eye out for that. But when you were in Dublin, we did talk about your book coming out. I keep calling it The Greatest Hits. You haven't called it The Greatest Hits?
No, I have not. I have called it a category blueprint.
Yes.
So it's the series, it's number 2 in the series. So the first one was Attention Economy, How Media Works. And it was really early in my life around the work that we'd done from research perspective. So this book is 3 times the size and much more updated with this significant amount of work in terms of research and knowledge and outcomes that we've achieved over the last 4 years. So it basically, it kind of, and the categories evolve so much.
Yeah.
So I look at the last book and I think, I remember saying in the book, attention economy is coming, and then I go fast forward 4 years and it's just everywhere in most workflows and most conversations. So it talks about the transition and how the category has born, and who are the key stakeholders that have been in that journey, and a lot of them have been agencies, but it is evolving to brand first. And then I also talk about how the industry bodies have jumped in, and I'm a big part of that, and where it's going from a standards perspective and definitions. And then there's a chapter I'm calling Big Little Learnings, which is everything I've learned and all the small things I've learned, but how it then all fits into the next chapter, which is the patterns. I've forgotten what I call the next chapter. I think it's Attention Science.
Okay.
But how all these things fit into these patterns that we see, and I'm calling them attention laws, the laws of attention, because there are laws around this, and it is predictable. So it's pretty fun. But, on top of that, we are doing biometrics and measurement of humans. So there's a whole chapter on ethics, and ethics from both a collection perspective and also from the perspective of good data, and what are the rules around good data.
I love those little learnings, that you've had along the way. I know it kind of boils into a bigger picture, but any of those kind of stand out for you that you...
Oh, so many. I mean, I can't wait for you to read it. There's so many. The most recent one we did was nuance of size. So basically we understand that different sized brands require different types of attention, which is why binary metrics don't work. Because So passive attention is better for bigger brands, for example. Not better, but
it works.
Sufficient.
Yeah.
And then smaller brands definitely need active attention because they have the need for, to be teaching something and, teaching people that they're in the category and this, etc. So I think that one. I think the biggest, some of the biggest findings I've found over the last couple of years, or 4 years, was that it's not about the ad box. It's about how humans actually view and sort of the type of decay that you can see. So there's, fast decay and slow decay. So different platforms train you to watch differently, and what that means from an attention product perspective, but also for campaign requirements for brands, and so that sort of stuff. I mean, it's been so much fun. I've loved every minute of it.
Have you?
I feel like I've done another PhD in the last 4 years.
I would say
years.
it must be.
Seriously, it's been really good.
Incredible. And I was looking at some of the things that, I've kind of been able to see about the book. It's thinking about the next generation of buyers.
Yeah, that's a goodie. So thinking through what we just talked about, which was a nuance of size, what we found is that big brands aren't actually hitting their goals in terms of how much attention they should be achieving relative to brand maintenance. So I'm actually speaking about it on Friday, and what we can see quite clearly is that big brands are untraining their future generation of category buyers, because what they're doing is they're going, and I'm pulling a brand, I'm not suggesting this, but McDonald's might say, well, we've been around for 70 years or 50 years.
Everyone knows us.
Everyone knows who we are. Everyone knows our assets. But they're trying to be clever in the younger generation. And we see a lot of brands that are trying to attract youth particularly are not using branding as often. And so what's happening is they make these assumptions that they associate so closely, because in our day we watched TV and we knew what was going, but people are seeing ads in a fleeting moment, and there's so much misattribution. So that's a big warning. So
I'm so glad you said that about misattribution, because it's something I've talked about, and even recently, and I've had people say to me, oh no, but we're putting this on TikTok. If we have any sort of branding, we won't engage people with it.
I see that all the time. So we collect in live form in all of the socials, including TikTok, and we see that all the time. So when we then go and do outcomes against it, because we do it's against a competitor set, so we don't just do outcomes that is, did your brand get more recall? We do things like, which brand do you associate with this particular, category moment, and they'll often misattribute. And it's usually to the larger competitor, because that's the norm. That's a typical brand.
People are like, well, they'll watch more of it. They might, but they won't know it's you.
So what's happening then is
that
your efficiency dissolves, because you've actually got to put more ads on to get the same impact of a single ad that's well branded with more attention up front. So that's a big one.
The other thing, and we talked about some of this when you were in Dublin, but as we're at the International Festival of Creativity, you've said that the bad news is the belief that good creative can fundamentally change how we view is not correct.
That is correct, and that is a really hard sell at the Festival of Creativity. But I have to say, so last year I did Triple Jeopardy, the year before I did Double Jeopardy, with Orlando and Peter Field and that kind of crowd, and Rob Britton. And they're starting to kind of understand. So here's the thing, the way that the platform, the way let's just call it Facebook, I mean, they're all the same in terms of the experience, but the user experience defines how you interact with it, and I call that hooked in the book. So there's a chapter around the user experience trains you how to scroll, trains you how sit with your volume, trains you, and so what that does is it has an impact on ads, and so even if creative is amazing, you're still going to scroll at the same speed by default of the user experience, for example, in a dumbed down way. And we've just introduced emotions to our tech stack. It's actually going live today.
Okay.
Exclusive. Just a small thing. So we've built Emotions AI into our tech stack across our back catalogue, and what we can see is, which is not unexpected, what we can see is that emotional content is its performance as an amplifier is tempered by the performance of that user experience and the amount of attention it can get you. So there's rules around, so it's impacting even good creative low attention platforms.
Wow. Tell me a bit about like the emotion. When you're saying emotion, what are you looking at?
So my first book was on emotions coding and its ability to essentially content sharing, right? So the diffusion of content. And so I built an entire emotions framework 12 years ago when I was still as an academic. And, I do rate the value of good creative and the emotional. So high arousal emotions have always been the gatekeeper to further behavioural actions, and I've looked at that 12 years ago. So what we wanted to do was basically take in an AI model that could detect, because we film people already, right?
Yeah.
So we can now look at changes in facial expressions and translate that to high and low arousal emotions, and we can do that at a sub-second level alongside gaze. So we can see the impact of creative and how the format adjusts that impact, etc. Yeah.
Are there better, and this is an odd question, but are there better emotions?
Look, so better from a commercial perspective is high arousal, right? So high arousal emotions are things that make you literally your skin crawl, or your hair stand on your ends of your back of your neck, or you cry, or you laugh. Or you gasp. So, there's both positive and negative valence, but so high arousal has always been the goal. So in a positive sense for advertising, it's surprise, it's happiness, that kind of thing. But interestingly, negative high arousal emotions get a lot of attention as well, because if you see something quite shocking, you're often drawn to it. But most brands don't.
I was going to say,
right?
most
so
brands,
we don't get a big sample of that, which is what I found 12 years ago. So from a brand perspective, a good amplifier of emotions is anything that's high arousal positive.
It's really interesting though that shocking element, and brands just don't go there.
So
really.
Where we see it is in things like road safety or anti-smoking or anti-guns or anything that's passion. I mean, in Australia, gay marriage was introduced, I can't remember what year, but I remember seeing a lot of, sort of advertising around that, and it's quite a passionate call. So it's usually community service / road safety types.
Yeah, that reminds me of the special group in New Zealand did a brilliant one for, I think it was life insurance, and they connected it to like a crime program, like a police drama, and the main character that dies in the program.
Wow.
At the end, the coming out of it, the promo for the life insurance company was this character opening their eyes in the morgue, going, I wish I'd life insurance.
So Australia has this famous Grim Reaper ad that went out in the 80s when unfortunately the AIDS epidemic was around, and they've brought him back recently.
Really?
But it's related to road safety and distraction on your phone. So so they talk about don't flirt with Grim, and Grim is Grim Reaper because he's going to get you. And then, of course, they're looking at their phone, flirting with Grim, and then they die because they hit a tree. So that's top of mind, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's.
Sorry, team. That was pretty foul.
yeah. Bright and breezy.
Yeah. Let's just do something fun.
And sorry, we've talked a bit about the zero branding piece as well, but brands still are going into that space and going, we won't do the branding. How are you, bar shaking people? What are you saying to people?
My job's not to make people feel bad, to be honest, because at the end of the day, their job's hard enough, right? So I'm not going to shake them, but I do get frustrated because there's plenty of evidence to that effect that overt branding doesn't actually. And in fact, part of my postdoc was this book around content diffusion and emotions, and part of it was a section on overt branding and whether it stops people from sharing content when viral was a thing, and it doesn't, right? So, and we see that now. So attention isn't impacted in any way whether the brand is present or not. What is impacted is whether a sale is gained.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of evidence. So I do get frustrated, but again, my job is not to make people feel bad, because I wouldn't want to be a marketer at this day and age, because it's super, super hard.
Yes, it is super, super hard. We've talked about this before, but there's lots of but there's lots of people out there with things to say. And some people have incredibly strong views about the things that they say. And I'm not asking you to talk about anybody who has strong views, but I kind of feel the marketing landscape is almost kind of fighting with itself.
It's usually
times.
commercially driven. So, I know people might not believe it, but everything we say is for the good of the category. And, we do build product around it, but we don't build product first, say some stuff, and then, try and get it sold. So I think it's because of the commercial nature of our industry that the loud voices tend to often be the ones that are trying to sell metrics or widgets or dashboards or,
It makes it very difficult, I think, for marketers in organizations because, you've probably seen this as well, where they go, this is the thing now. And then in a year or 2 years later, they go, this is the thing now.
I was on a panel yesterday with Les Burnett, and we were talking about effectiveness, and we both kind of agree. We think it's becoming, I think advertisers are sick and tired of it. I think they're actually sick and tired of all the noise in our industry, and so there is a bit of a shift back towards effectiveness. And I also see a rally cry for quality data. So it's interesting because in the book there's a whole chapter on the growth of this category. And what I do talk about is that there's been 3 seismic, events that have led to this huge change in our industry. And in most cases, a category generating brand will have one thing, like regulation changes, and then you can kind of slip in and build a new category, right? But this industry, there are 3 major things that are all converging at the same time, and one is rally cry from the advertisers and sick and tired of crap in our industry and bad metrics and, viewability doesn't work. Now we know that, some of the verification pieces don't work and the fraud and da-da-da. Then there's the obvious, which is cookie depletion. So there is a regulation change. But the third piece is also advanced technology. So I've had conversations with people that have built the early verification businesses and said, the technology available now, particularly in the computer vision side, because with computer vision with permissions we can film on any device. So you think about the capabilities of that kind of data or those kinds of models and technology combined with the other 3 things. So there's a massive call for change now. So I do think, my point was, both Les and I said yesterday, we think that the idea of bringing effectiveness back into the mix is actually on the edge.
Yeah. Do you notice anything different just in your conversations with marketers in different markets, in terms of 2 things? I think one, in terms of their understanding of some of the basic principles, and then maybe in how they approach marketing in different markets.
So it's interesting because often a lot of people will say, is it Western versus non-Western worlds? Is there a difference? There is a little bit, but it's largely to do with size of the continent or country, etc. But what's the biggest difference?
And it's interesting because, a lot of your data is international, global data. So, and it, over time, you've proven that the principles and the laws are international, right?
Yeah, I think it's just some people want quick fixes and others, want it to be systematic and, so I think there are changes between countries. And the reality with a category, with generating a category, it's not a 5-minute.
Yeah.
We're still working out. I was talking to someone the other day and I said, it's not just enough to kind of design a category blueprint, but you've got to think about what product suite people want in 5 years' time. So, there's this constant evolving workflow around what different products do people want at different parts of the industry, and so it's just learning. That's what our industry is doing. We're learning.
There's only one of you. We can't clone you and scale you and get you to spend a year in the US. But
interesting you say that because I can't see me moving, but we do have a team there and we do have a team in the UK. But the other thing that we did, so this is funny, because the marketing team are the same. Karen's never in the country. We can't get access to her, and so they built so OpenAI, you can have an API of theirs. So they built a chat KNF.
Stuff.
No, I'm not stopping it. So they ingested every single thing I've ever written.
No.
No, yes. So they've got KNF. So we're just trying to work out how we can use that to replicate me.
Oh my God, that
it's so funny.
is genius.
Chat
Chat KNF. I love it. What are you going to get to see this week, or is it more people seeing you?
No. So I'm off to see Adam Morgan.
Oh, yeah.
And the work that Peter Field have done around the
Boring.
recipe of dal or something. Are you going to that?
I don't know. I have it down on my list.
Well, it was in the morning, but now it's in the afternoon. So
is it? Oh, okay.
But yes, that's definitely on my list. And I want to get to see some stuff over at Beat Retreat. There's some interesting things over there, but I don't get a lot of time to see. I can imagine. But I'm definitely supporting the problem with dull, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's because it can be dull. I know. I haven't got. Have you gone down to see the work? Will you get to see the work?
I will definitely not get to see. Did I not tell you that I have no creative bone in my entire body? So no, I will definitely not be. I'm sure that's amazing, and the work is amazing.
We should give you little stars.
Just tell me who wins, and then I'm good.
And then you've a couple more presentations that you're giving this week.
Yep. So I've got some client panels. So I've done some stuff with Pinterest, and I've done some stuff with. I'm doing some stuff with Snapchat and OMG on Thursday. We built an SDK to measure their augmented reality formats. Amazing work. So there's that, and I've done some RTL work, and
I was down at RTL. It's a fantastic setup they have down there.
It's great. They're really
amazing.
Good.
Yeah.
And then I've got a big presentation on Friday in the Palais.
Okay.
Called Finger Licking What? I love saying it that way. What?
Is that going to be more about what we've talked about here?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm also doing some.
I'm still laughing at Finger Licking What?
So I'm also doing some practical tips inspired by a professional thief.
Okay.
That's all I'll tell you.
No, okay.
Practical tips about how to get attention inspired by a professional thief.
And sorry, the funny thing is, I'm just going to go back to last night and talking about attention, and you were asked to comment on other people's, and you said, I wasn't paying attention.
I know, and they were all laughing at me. That's okay, I'm happy being laughed at. Oh, so funny.
That was good. Well, listen, thanks a million for stopping by.
Pleasure. And thank you for having me again.
When is the book out? Is it it's on pre-order now, I think?
On pre-order. We had hoped that it had been printed, but the parent company, which is Nature, haven't quite got it finished. Okay. So it is actually on pre-order.
So when do we know it's coming out?
I'm hoping next couple of months.
Great. Yeah.
Then I'll come back to Europe and do a launch.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So again, we'll officially do it on that. So I call marketing every time.
Oh, look, every time. Unfortunately, the printing industry is in a position at the moment where they're kind of slower than all the books I've ever written. So. Yeah,
but I did hear that from other people as well.
So we had planned to have proper copies here, so you could have one, and but
I could have got it signed. Maybe you'll sign it for me when you come over.
That's right. I can wait. It is Nature. The publisher's pretty prestigious, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, listen. Best of luck with that. Best of luck with the rest of the week here, and you're so good for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
You were tuned into That's What I Call Marketing, the Cannes Sessions, brought to you by Friedman International. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Karen. She is just a fascinating guest, so smart, as I said at the start, really engaging. I think like the work she has done on attention is game changing, and I think we owe a lot to Karen for forcing the conversation and pushing it through, and, as a metric for us to think about and be aware of. And I think people like this that make these significant impacts on our industry, and you get to spend time with them. It's an absolute pleasure and a treat. And as I said, she is just a joy to spend time with. We had a great laugh. Up next is Karen Kapany from Duolingo. I met him at the end of the week. So when we both met, we were sort of exhausted, and we started the interview with a bit of an exhale. How are you? I'm exhausted. You will hear in this episode, we got over that and we had a great conversation. I had the pleasure of having India as a market on my team when I had a global marketing role. We even won a WARC Grand Prix and a gold Effie for our B2B work there. So what a great team. Anyway, I was fascinated to hear how Karen navigates local marketing of a global brand in a market as complex as India. So in this episode, we delve into the complexities and strategies behind Duolingo's growth in the Indian market. He shares insights on the vast linguistic and cultural diversity of India, and we chat about how Duolingo adapts its campaigns for different regions, the importance of local insights, the role of influencers in social media in their marketing efforts, and why taking risks and pushing boundaries is crucial for brand success in a multifaceted market like India. How are you?
I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but it's been a great experience so far.
Yeah.
It's been a really nice experience.
We'll get later on a bit about, like, you were on stage and you had a presentation, but I'd just love to hear about your move to Duolingo. Your responsibility is, I mean, India is huge. So India is your region of responsibility.
That's right.
And I was saying to you before we started, you know, I was lucky in a previous role to work with a brilliant team, Rohan, Ranjana, Ritik in India, and Nishida. She was based in Singapore, but she's actually from India, and she oversaw the team. And I learned so much from them. And I think there's lots of, you know, people think about India as a country, but it's more than that, isn't it? Like, for people who don't know, I mean, there's so many different languages, regions, dialects. Yeah,
Absolutely. I think something I point out quite often in a lot of my presentations outside of India is that India is not like China, which is very homogenous. India is more like the European Union, where every state is pretty much like a country, and you've got populations of certain states which are like Spain, which are like France. And so if you're looking at the India market, you're pretty much looking at an entire, in a way, European Union type of thing. To give you an example, we launched the Bengali language course, which is Learn English from Bengali. Bengal is a state in the east of India. And the year after that, we launched a course which was Learn English from Telugu. And Telugu is a state, as in, not Telugu is not a state, Telugu is a language spoken by people from 2 states in India which are in the south. And what the kind of insights that we got for the people and the culture are so different.
Right.
And if you were to do, let's say, Tamil or Punjabi or another language, again, it'll be so different from what we've already done. So one is to say that at a global level, you know, you've got a campaign and you can just copy paste it across the world. We know that doesn't work. But even within India, if you've got a state, or if you've cracked an insight for a certain state, for certain, people, you can't even do that across India. It is so diverse.
Yeah. So how that is, there's 2 parts that I think it's like, it's massively complex, but how do you then approach that, I guess, even internally, you know, with Duolingo as a US first based organization, and any global organization looks to scale, and scale is easier when you can just, as you say, copy paste. But it doesn't. So how do you approach that? It's a very difficult one. I've been there.
So I think we're very fortunate that all of us get a lot of freedom when it comes to chasing some ideas, or when it comes to looking at our markets in our way, because I think the understanding is very clear that nobody knows our markets better than us because we are here. And so there is this broader guardrail of Duolingo and what the brand stands for, and obviously you have to stay within that. But in that, there's a huge amount of freedom about how you want to approach a certain culture or a certain language or a certain set of people. And I think that's very important, because if you really want to connect with people and be seen as their brand, as opposed to being seen as an American brand or a US, like UK brand or anything else, you really do need to have that level of personalization and localization. Without it, you'll always be seen as an other. You'll not be seen as theirs.
Yeah. And that's a big challenge. So what are the things that you do to kind of show up as local, I guess, in a global context?
So whenever there is let's say, a campaign which is aimed specifically at a certain set of people, I think the number one thing is to get as much information about them, about their culture. How we do this is through various ways. We're quite fortunate. We've got offices, our agency's got offices in 3 or 4 of the major cities.
Okay.
And so we draw from a very diverse pool of talent. And so we will have, for example, in the Bengali launch, we had a bunch of people from Bengal who could help us out with a lot of the insights. For the Telugu launch, again, something similar. And if it's not direct, like at a first level connection, people who are from there, friends of friends. And so we try to talk to as many of them as possible. We also listen very intently on our social media pages. So we will put out a teaser post just to kind of get a sense of how people are reacting to
Yeah.
it, and then we kind of draw insights from there. Uh, and we do talk to a lot of agencies and try and see, is there an alignment when it's
Right.
coming to certain insights?
Yeah,
Like, if
yeah.
5 agencies come back and out of them 4 are kind of saying something similar, you know that you're on the right track.
Right. Yeah, which is good news. Yeah.
Also, I think when you grow up in a country like India, which is so diverse, I think it's kind of intrinsic about how you think about certain cultures and how you think about certain campaigns. I think
Yeah.
it comes very naturally because you've grown up in this kind of a diverse environment.
Yeah. That is very, very true. It's and then how do you kind of go about approaching growing Duolingo in a market the size of India? Like, have you had to pick out? You talked about some of the languages. Have you had to pick out like some of the major cities or regions first and go about it that way, or how have you thought about it?
That's a great question. I think for us, growth has come from both the large cities and the small cities. From the larger cities, we see a lot more adoption of languages which are learn French, Spanish, German from English. So the assumption there is that larger cities have a higher population of English speakers.
Okay.
And in smaller cities, we have a larger population of people trying to learn English.
Right.
From Hindi, from Telugu, from Bengali. And so that's one thing, which is something we've done. To answer your question about how growth really happens, there are a lot of levers. Influencers, for example, are a big lever for us in India. Social media is a big lever for awareness and growth. And whenever we've done our campaigns for language launches, that's localization at the best level, right? Because you can't have a better message for somebody who speaks Telugu that you can now learn English from Telugu, and that opens up huge number of gates for you. So in India, English has there's a lot of baggage associated with English, because of.
I'm Irish, so that's there too.
I mean, you know exactly what I'm saying then. With like 2 centuries of colonization. Fortunately or unfortunately, you choose to look at it in either way. English is the lingua franca of the corporate world.
Yeah.
If you want to get ahead in a corporate sector, you do need English. That's the harsh reality. There's no getting around it. English is also in a country as diverse as India. It allows you to communicate with people from different states.
Yeah.
You can't all learn one language. It's not even fair to expect people to learn, one language. And if you're somebody who's an economic migrant, how many languages can you be expected to learn?
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You could go
yeah.
from state to state. It's tough.
Is there right? There's like 121 spoken languages in India. Yeah.
Yes, I think about 22 official languages, and the dialect changes every 15, 20, 30 kilometers. And it's quite beautiful.
Yeah.
I would say. But at the same time, there are logistical issues which arise because of that. That kind of diversity. And so the baggage that I talk about when I talk about English is in terms of it's also a class marker, status marker. The vocabulary you use, the accent that you use, the way you speak, sometimes is construed as where you're from, what kind of education you've been fortunate enough to have gotten or not gotten, as the case may be. And so people in India want, there's this huge aspiration to move up, as is the case with, pretty much everybody, I would say. But in India, we've got this burgeoning middle class which want to do better for themselves, do better for their kids, more than anything else. And so English is kind of seen as sometimes as a proxy for
being able to
education. Good education sometimes equates with good English, and I'm not saying that's correct. That's what we see with some of our research. And so people do want to learn English. People do want to get better at English. And the best way to grow in a country with so many diverse languages is to be able to offer them a course to learn English from their language.
Right.
As opposed to just a few handful of languages.
And then so that helps, I guess, in terms of how you think about where and what you do, because you focus on the regions with the languages. What are some of the channels? You talked about social. I do want to ask you about Duo and how Duo translates in India. We'll get to Duo. But what other channels are you using? Social influencers. Are you using broad reach channels like TV, out of home, radio?
So for a Bengali launch, we did do radio. We did use outdoor. But that was about 3 years ago now. I think over a period of time, we've also evolved our strategy. Duolingo is very social first.
Right, okay.
And so even if we do an outdoor, we want the core idea to be very social first.
Right.
For example, when we did outdoor for the Bengali launch 3 years ago, it was just an outdoor. We just put up these lovely hoardings all over the northeast of India, clever hoardings, but that was it.
Right.
And then our strategy also evolved to the point that when we did the Telugu launch, the central idea was an outdoor, but it was completely social first. So the idea was people in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, which are the two states which comprises the Telugu-speaking population in India, love their film industry. It's the Tollywood film industry, like Bollywood, Tollywood. They absolutely love it, to the point that their stars are like demigods.
Right.
And everything is larger than life. It's a very interesting ecosystem over there. And so we launched Duo with a hand-painted cutout like they used to do in the olden days.
Okay.
In fact, it's a dying art, at least in India right now. We struggle to find somebody who could do it. So we did a 60-foot tall hand-painted Duo.
No.
And the duo was wearing a vesti and dressed in like a very typical traditional, Telugu star kind of a way. And we put that up. And then we created a lot of social content around it. Behind the scenes, influencers interacting with it, general public interacting with it. And so the thought of using such a huge cutout was not just the fact that it's an outdoor piece that we're putting out, but how best can we leverage it through social media.
Yeah.
So that's the evolution, that rather than just putting out outdoor, let's do something which is always going to be social first. So,
okay. And my impression is that's kind of very much a global approach to the growth of
100%,
Duolingo.
100%.
And Duo is central to that, and fantastic. I mean, it's I think most people talk about it like it's a brilliant example of using a mascot or an icon, or and kind of really leveraging it, pushing it into social. Some of the videos are crazy, like it's brilliant, but a lot of fun can be had. And I imagine I was gonna ask how that translated to India, but I imagine it did translate quite well, because there's a great sense of humor in the Indian culture, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, the first year we did not have a Duo suit in India. The second year we did get the Duo suit. And our first campaign launching the Duo suit was an absolute smash hit, viral sensation. Very little money spent on it, but went crazy. I think videos went 10 million, 12 million, 13 million organically. And a lot of the Duo lore from the world kind of just translated in India very easily. A lot of people are at least on social media, are already aware about Duo's, antics, or the slightly unhinged character of how Duo operates. They're already aware of that. So we didn't have to work as hard in building that from scratch.
Right.
And that's all thanks to the global team's efforts. But that's a social media audience. It's not the general Indian population. But because it was received so well, it did so well, there are more and more people who now understand that, okay, there is this slightly crazy green owl which you're going to see somewhere, and it does really weird things, but it's all cool, it's all fun. So yeah, it's building. Every day it grows bigger.
Yeah, and what's great with it allows you have an incredible amount of fun with the brand. And I don't like learning. Probably in the past was kind of boring, and a category that may not have been fun. And I think that's what's really great and kind of inspiring. It goes to show that even in categories that we think of as not being entertaining or enjoyable or fun, you can do that, and you can engage people and draw them in. So, in your observations, do you think we need more of that fun in kind of marketing? Are you seeing more of it in India?
We're definitely seeing more of it in India. We're seeing a lot of brands which are trying to do kind of exactly what we've done.
Okay.
For sure. Imitation, sincerest form of flattery.
Oh, flattery, 100%.
All of that. To answer your first question, whether that's something which brands should do, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think every brand is very different. And what I do think that brands probably could do, whether it's not exactly going down this path, is to probably take more risks. I said this in my session also today in the morning, that if you're too safe with some of these things, you'll never ever push boundaries. You'll never know what might work. And at Duolingo, we believe this very strongly, that go ahead, make some mistakes, but learn from them. test hypothesis. Because if you are going to operate in your safe zone,
Yeah.
you will never really do outstanding work. You
Yeah.
will do nice work,
Yeah.
but it will never be amazing work. And so if you want to get to that level where there is that level of brand love, you need to push.
Yeah.
And you need to take risks. That's what I feel. But I do not think that every brand needs to get into the unhinged zone.
I thought you call it unhinged.
Every brand should not get into this irreverent zone. It will not work. And also it has to be very genuine. It has to come from a place of genuineness and authenticity. If it doesn't, the people who are watching, they will catch it in half a second. You cannot fool people.
100%.
If it's not coming from a place that you really believe in, it's not going to fly.
Yeah, and you can see Duolingo really does believe in it. And it's just it now, Duo is a distinctive brand asset.
It is part of the DNA, I think. It is part of our DNA.
100%. I used it recently as a reference point, but there's a few others. But for just an organisation I'm doing some work with and kind of wanted to help them kind of evolve a mascot they'd had for a totally different thing, and I was like, but we should kind of push it a little bit, and it's not it's more cutesy, it's less kind of unhinged, but it was a great reference point to say, look at this. But I know also, and I've read stuff around kind of the sophistication of Duolingo's online marketing and performance marketing. There's a wonderful article I've read online. It's pretty open, like it's like this is kind of how we approached it. It's a pretty sophisticated machine, I would imagine, kind of that lower funnel part. Is that all centrally kind of just done, or is there some stuff that you need to do locally that's slightly different?
Performance marketing is largely done globally.
Yeah.
We operate out of the New York, as in from the US offices, and there's a team that sits and does the performance marketing. Local teams support them through assets. So, for example, influencers are quite big, and what we've seen is that a lot of times performance marketing ads with people in them work better than purely animation ads, which is what Duolingo ads. A lot of Duolingo ads are just the animation of the UX. So people work a lot of times. Also, famous people work really well in markets like India. And so sometimes a large remit for us is, since we work so much with influencers, and if any of the influencer videos goes viral, is to take some of that content with obviously permission from the influencer and use that as a performance marketing asset. Sometimes to even just shoot performance marketing assets with influencers separately. They'll not go out anywhere, but they just go on a performance marketing. So that's one way for us to support them. But everything else is done globally.
It is interesting, and it's just when you talk about influencers. I remember I mentioned Riddick, who I worked with before, and he wanted to work with influencers in India, and there was two guys. I have to get the name of them for you because you'll know them when you see them. They were in a lot of kind of reality shows, and they're a little unhinged as well. And so they were going for job interviews, and like the stuff that came out was so different to kind of global brands. But we were like, no, this is right. Like it is, again, unhinged is probably the right word, but it did incredibly well. It was a partnership with Disney Hotstar, small little series, but those local insights are just powerful. And it's great that kind of, to have the freedom to do that in the market. And, have you seen any of the stuff that you've done then translate into other markets and people go, oh, we want some of what he's done?
I guess like some things, but we did a really nice campaign in the first quarter this year, which was we hijacked Lakme Fashion Week. Lakme Fashion Week is India's largest fashion. It's like the mecca for fashion lovers. And we worked with the team at Lakme Fashion Week, and we had Duo over there. And we put out some amazing content. We had Duo design his own collection and costumes and stuff like that. Very nice. The audiences loved it. And I have a feeling that when we were presenting it, a lot of people expressed, because it's a brand new fandom for us, the fashion or the fashionistas, that fandom is brand new for us. So I have a feeling that that's something which might inspire somebody to do stuff. And apart from that, I feel like there are certain things in India which make sense only in India.
Right.
And so I don't know how much of it can be, can travel.
I was watching Elf Beauty, and also then Mark, who's the president of Mr. Beast's company, and they were both talking kind of like the speed of culture, and Mark was saying things like, brands want to control the narrative, and with creators they want to say, well, we want to do this in 6 months' time, and the creators are like, I don't really know what the trend is going to be in 2 or 3 weeks' time. And that's a very different dynamic. And to be able to be scrappy is hugely advantageous.
Yeah, I mean, we often work at like a weekly level, and we are monitoring views, and the YouTube algorithm can change anytime. And so you'll have creators whose views suddenly go down and there's no explanation for that, suddenly go up and I'm sure there's an explanation, but nobody knows that explanation. And so it's a very dynamic space, changes like you wouldn't believe, and you just have to constantly engage to know what's going on.
Yeah. Having been in this role now and, obviously helping a brand scale globally, any advice you'd give to people who are kind of, listening or watching that are kind of going, right, it doesn't have to be India, but just we're thinking about our next international steps in globalization and scaling. Any advice, any missteps you've seen that you'd kind of help people avoid?
That's a tough question, because the way I approach things may be very different from the way other people approach things. I do feel that a lot of times we overthink stuff, and we should just do it.
Right.
I mean, you'll make mistakes. You'll fail, but as long as you're learning something from it, do it. This is sounding like a Nike commercial right now. Just do it. But I do feel that. If I have to make a choice between doing something or just thinking about it, just do it. See what will happen, and then take it from there. If you keep overthinking stuff, you'll get into this analysis paralysis, and then you'll probably regret the fact that you've not done anything, and the opportunity would go, and that's the worst thing. Just try it out. Life is too short. It's.
I heard someone today say the phrase, which I loved. They're actually talking about a totally different topic, but I think it's really applicable to so many different things. But was progress over perfection.
Which
I really like that.
Of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you should strive for perfection, but at the same time, you should not let it limit you.
You'll do nothing.
Because then you'll just exactly.
Yeah,
you'll do nothing, and you just you'll probably just want to be perfect or chase that ultimate level. It'll never happen. Nothing is ideal. You have to make do with what you have. If you want to do something, try it out. At worst, it won't work out. It's okay. Try again. That's what life is all about.
Exactly.
Don't stress too much about these things. There are more important things in life to worry about.
100%. Well, listen, I appreciate you stopping by to chat to me. I wanted to get you on for a while, and when I saw you were here, I was like, right, I'm chatting Karen down, and we'll have a great conversation. Look, it's fascinating. You're doing incredible work. I was reading about some of the other campaigns that you've done that we haven't really touched on, but it's really interesting. It's not an easy role either. I understand the kind of trying to navigate that isn't always easy. But it's great to have that opportunity, and kind of best of luck with it. It's going to be if Duolingo continues to grow in India, like, it's going to be an absolute rocket ship. So you're going to be top of that. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Brilliant. Thank you
so much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Karen. It really is. India is a fascinating market. The size of the market, the scale of the market, and how, Karen and his team have to stay focused on some key areas and growing over time. I think a lot of organizations, US-based organizations, look at a market like India and look at the TAM and think this is a market we need to get into. It's a huge opportunity. I think the mistake they often make is not understanding the dynamics of the market, the cultural nuances and differences of the market, and it takes a lot to be successful in a market like India. So well done to Karen and all the team at Duolingo. And of course, hopefully you enjoyed the first part of this episode with the brilliant Karen Nelson-Field. We are going to take a break from the Cannes sessions next week. I'm going to have an interview with Kevin Kent. He is head of marketing and consumer sales at Leia Healthcare, which is an Irish healthcare provider. Kevin's team won Marketing Team of the Year this year, and it's a huge accolade, a huge honor. So I wanted to take time out with Kevin, who's a phenomenal marketer, to find out more about how he went about setting the team up for success to become Marketing Team of the Year. So tune in next week for that episode with Kevin Kent, and then we'll be back the week after with more from our Cannes sessions.